Today, we're diving into an ancient story that asks a really tough question. What if our greatest joys are actually inseparable from our deepest sorrows? It's a pretty unsettling idea, and it comes from a text called the Piyajātikasutta. Honestly, it challenges pretty much everything we think we know about love.
So the whole story really boils down to this one profound question. Is it even possible to love something or someone without also planting the seeds of future pain? Let's see how this incredible narrative digs into that very difficult idea.
Okay, so it all starts with this one sentence, right here in its original Pali language. This is a direct quote from the Buddha, and let me tell you, it contains a truth so difficult that it's going to make a grieving man completely reject it and a powerful king doubt it with his entire being. So what does that actually mean? Here it is in English. It's an absolutely unflinching statement. The very things we hold most dear are the source of our most painful emotions. But, this isn't some abstract theory. This teaching is about to be tested by raw, unfiltered human experience. And that test begins with a man who is just drowning in grief. For this guy, this is not a philosophical debate. It is his devastating new reality. So we meet this man, a householder, just a regular person, who has suffered the most unimaginable loss. His only son, who he loved more than anything, has just passed away. The text even describes the son as Pio Manapo, which means dear and delightful. I mean, the absolute center of his world is just gone. And his grief is just all-consuming. His life has completely ground to a halt. He can't work, he can't bring himself to eat, he spends all his time at the cemetery just weeping and calling out for his son. This is a man who is utterly broken by sorrow. And in this terrible state, he runs into the Buddha, who offers him that difficult truth we just talked about. From what is beloved, sorrow is born. But the father, he just immediately rejects it. You can imagine, right? He argues, no, how can that be? My son was the source of all my joy, all my happiness, not my sorrow. It's a reaction that, honestly, anyone who has ever loved can understand. So, feeling completely unheard, the father leaves and ends up telling his story to a group of gamblers, and they immediately agree with him. They're like, of course, man, from what is dear comes joy. And just like that, he gets the validation he was looking for, which really just shows you how counterintuitive this teaching really is. But a story about a teaching this controversial, well, it doesn't stay on the streets for long. Word starts to spread, and it travels from the gambling dens all the way into the heart of the royal palace. King Pasenadi gets wind of this teaching, and, well, just like the grieving father, he is super skeptical. The whole idea just sounds absurd to him. Why would a wise teacher say something that's so obviously wrong? For the king, the math is simple. Love equals happiness, period. Or does it? But his wife, Queen Malika, she has a totally different reaction. She doesn't just agree or disagree. Instead, she approaches it with real wisdom. She has this fundamental trust that an enlightened person wouldn't just say something false, but she wants to understand it, really understand it properly. So she puts a very smart, very logical plan into action. She sends a messenger to go directly to the source. The mission is simple. Go ask the Buddha if he actually said these words. But her instructions show this incredible faith. She tells the messenger to listen carefully because the enlightened don't lie. She's not looking for confirmation of what she already believes. She's looking for clarity. So, the messenger goes, and this is where we really get to the core of the whole explanation. Because the Buddha doesn't just confirm his words, he illustrates them with some incredibly powerful examples. When the messenger asks him, the Buddha confirms it without a moment's hesitation. Yep, that is exactly what I said. But he doesn't just stop there. He gets that this is a really hard truth to swallow, so he provides a whole series of examples to prove his point. And the Buddha points to these universal experiences of life that, we can all understand. People driven to madness and despair after losing a mother, a father, a sibling, a husband, a wife. Each one of those relationships was a source of immense love, right? But because nothing lasts forever, that love eventually became the source of immense sorrow. The crucial insight is this. The potential for sorrow is directly tied to the depth of the love. The messenger takes all this back to the queen. And now, armed with this clarity, Queen Malika goes to the king. But she doesn't just tell him he's wrong. No, she's much smarter than that. She guides him so he can find the answer himself. She doesn't lecture him at all. Instead, she starts this brilliant line of questioning. She begins with the thing that is closest to his heart, his daughter, Princess Vajiri. "Tell me, my king," she asks, "is she dear to you?" And of course, he says yes. Then she asks the critical follow-up question. And if something were to happen to her, if she were to change, would sorrow and pain and grief arise in you? And the king, he has to admit it. He says if anything happened to his precious daughter, his own life might as well be over. Yes, he says, sorrow would arise. And that is the very first crack in his skepticism. But the queen isn't done, not by a long shot. Methodically, she starts to expand the circle of his love and attachments, one by one. She asks about his other wife, then about his trusted general. Then she asks about herself, and finally about the entire kingdom that he rules and cherishes. And with every single question, the king is forced to give the exact same answer. If he lost any of these beloved people or his cherished kingdom, his life would be shattered. Sorrow would arise. It's like a trap made of his own love. And with every answer, he realizes the Buddha's point is true. And then, finally, it just hits him. The truth dawns on him, and he's completely overwhelmed. He exclaims, "Astounding! Incredible! How could the Blessed One see this truth so profoundly with his wisdom?" You see, it wasn't some abstract idea anymore. It was a truth he had just discovered inside his own heart. His transformation is just complete. This is the same man who started out as a proud skeptic, who dismissed the whole idea out of hand. And now he stands up, arranges his robe, and bows 3 times in the direction of the Buddha, paying homage. He's moved all the way from doubt to the deepest respect. Now, this ancient story isn't telling us not to love, not at all. It's just revealing the full, unvarnished equation. It asks us to look at our own lives, our own attachments, and to face the very same truth the king had to face. And so it leaves us, and it leaves you, with one unavoidable question. Knowing that sorrow is the price of love, is it a price you're willing to pay?